All right. Something happened to my vinyl holographic printable sticker paper here. It looks like a couple drops of re-inker fluid gone on here. So I'm going to try to remedy that. The thing that would make the most sense to me would be to just lay some additional white pigment ink over those areas and see how it comes out. What we'll try to do is subdue the, I don't know, the visual presence of those and, I don't know, kind of bury it under other additional media and or imagery. But we're going to start off with the media here. You can always stamp like a branch over something like that. But I think it might look best to have some, I don't know, just some additional texturing in here maybe. We'll see if this is adequate enough to cover it up. I'm trying with this pigment ink. The pigment inks are, they can get pretty opaque on here, but in a lighter application, we're going to have translucency. And that's kind of what I'm going for, but it looks like, I don't know, just adding this down in kind of a lighter tinge right here doesn't seem to quite be getting the, I don't know, remedying those marks as much as I thought they might. All right, so let's see that right there. I don't think that's going to do it, but let's test out if I can kind of do some spot applications here. That was just, you know, kind of applying with a more general area, you know, with that big fat cotton ball like that. Let's see if I can just do some isolated tappings of that. Okay, that looks better. That looks way better. But I might still be able to see those dots. Let's see. The vinyl sticker paper is working pretty good in terms of grabbing this water-based pigment ink here, and I don't know if it's allowing it to dry because this is really built up on here, but let's see what we can do. Sometimes after a while of applying this type of media on this type of surface, it kind of achieves a little bit of a you know, a pretty good amount of saturation where it might not grab it anymore, because the thing that makes this particular holographic a printable vinyl is the presence of this emulsion coating on here that allows for your inkjet inks to apply and dry on it. So it's similar to photo paper in that way. All right, so oh, here's the thing. Looks like it. So that was definitely some dye-based ink right there, because as I'm going in here and applying this water-based pigment ink over the top of it, it's kind of spreading that out. You can see that little bluish tinge right in there. Okay, so that's not just going to do it completely. So I'm going to call upon my imagery right here in the form of the Seaside Cove, and we're going to add that right down there in the background, and let's see if that can, kind of solve our, whatever, our accident issue right here. Okay, so I'm going with the Brilliance Black over Brilliance White. And I'll use the center section here. I don't know if I'm going to use the whole thing. I probably won't use the foreground down here that has some rocks right at the base there. I'm going for more of the texturing, the water surface, and a little bit more of the kind of a denser edge area. Okay, well, we'll see how this goes. I think it would be a good image to use in here anyway. I usually don't want to cover up everything so much on the holographics because I want that type of patterning to go on down there as a reflection of what's going on up in the sky, but we have that little issue there, so let's see how this goes. Okay, so I'm going to try and mask off our little figure here a little bit. Let's see if I can just make a quick makeshift mask right here. It doesn't have to be perfect because the image that I'm going to be stamping over her is tonal. In other words, I don't have this big solid thing that's going on here. It's a bunch of dots. So if I do get some dots in her, it's not really going to be any big deal. So let's see, let's go something like this. I mean, if I wanted to take more time out, I could, you know, be a little bit more careful about it. But really don't need to be here. Okay, I think that's going to be adequate right there. And let's take this image right here. I tell you what, I'm going to mop off the top portion of it that has a real definitive edge because I just want this texturing to go on there. I don't want to create like a strong horizon because we already have that far shoreline there. So let me take up a pretty good portion of the top portion of this stamp. And let's see how this goes here. I tell you what, I'm going to mop off a little bit around our figure too, I think, just so that she stands out a little bit more and doesn't have that kind of dark texturing just directly on top of her. All right, let's see if how this goes and if it covers up those little blotchy areas. It doesn't have to completely obscure them or eradicate them, but if I can get a little bit of texture over them, then I can develop the shadows of this stamp over those blotchy areas. And that white pigment ink that was laid down should develop, it should establish some decent lighting on this textured watered surface here. Yeah, I think that came out just fine. So you have these kind of this near shoreline in here now, okay? And now we do have that little blotchy area, but I'm going to go in here and develop the shadows and kind of lighting on this little shoreline a little bit more now. It makes for kind of a windier textural space down here now. Okay, so it might be a good idea to wait for that to dry just a touch normally, but I'm just going to go right in there and develop some of these shadows a little bit more. I'll tell you what, I'm going to start on just with my black colored pencil. Now, black colored pencil is not going to work just directly on top of vinyl sticker paper. It's too sealed off, and it's really kind of more of a, almost like a foil. But where this colored pencil will work is on the areas where I've applied some of that white pigment ink in here. All right. Now that I'm looking at this too, I think this would be kind of interesting if I added like a moon back here. I should do something where I create a mask for this specific size of moon right here, and then I add that in there in white over this background, and then I stamp right over the top of it with the moon. But I tell you what, just for the sake of expediency here in this scene and finishing it off, I just go with just a 1-inch hole punch right here. Okay. And then I'm going to have a moon right over here, and we'll do it in white ink. I just need something up there. Maybe something, a word stamp stamped in white would be really good too. But let's just create this little moon up here. It might create a little bit more drama in the scene. And it creates another kind of visual focal point in the scene too. Okay, so again, the white Brilliance ink, because it is water-based, it will dry on the surface of this vinyl sticker paper really well. The sticker paper really grabs the water-based media. So in this case, the pigment ink here, and it does a really good job. It grabs it, it dries on there, and it dries very quickly. Okay, so we have our little moon in there now. And I don't know, there's kind of a bit of a blob of that pigment ink in there as well, so it kind of represents maybe some moonlight on the water surface. Okay, so let's go in and let's develop our shadow areas on this a little bit more. What I'm doing is I'm going into the image. It's kind of hard to see a little bit, but there's shadow areas on the image under the crest of the waves right in here. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of further enhancing some of that by adding a little bit more shadow work in those areas. Sometimes I add less, but I don't know, this is like a nighttime scene, and I want to kind of cover up that little blob right there, so I'm going to put in, introduce kind of a little bit more contrast into those areas like that. Okay. And then what I'll also do is I'll come into the lit areas and we'll apply some white on the crest of the waves. All right. So you apply dark in the shadows, and I'll go to my, I was going to use my blue pen. I'm just going to go to white. I'm just going to use my white pen. Hello, Bill. How are you? Okay, so going into the waves right here, and kind of on the crest of the waves, adding this in. Let me see, let me shake this up a little bit. Doing a little repair work here, Bill. Okay, I'm not just kind of adding this anywhere, although you can, but I can see the image right here and the waves, and right, like I said, on the crest of the waves, or that little kind of white cap coming off the the top of the wave, the little spindrift or whatever you want to call it. I'm just highlighting that so it is illuminated in the image itself, and I'm just kind of reiterating that, or just highlighting that little bit. So you don't have to make anything up. You can just kind of follow the design itself in the kind of more illuminated areas of the design. You're just adding a little bit more white to it, just to make it stand out a touch. Or, I don't know, actually it's standing out quite a bit, I guess. Okay, so I have that, and I tell you what, maybe on this little figure in the foreground, I'm going to highlight her a little bit too while I'm at it. Highlight her hair and kind of the illuminated areas of that design right there. So there's little folds in the blanket, her shoulders, like that. Just that she kind of stands out a touch more. And maybe some of the moonlight is reflecting off of those objects right in there. Okay, let's do the same thing on some of these other areas. I want to add some color to these trees, but we'll add a little bit of lighting now that we have a strong light source right next to there. So just on some of these trees, maybe closest to our moon. They're reflecting some of that light like that. I'm kind of working a little bit opposite. I usually do this towards the tail end, if not the absolute last step. But since I have this in my hand, I'm just doing it right now. But I'll be adding some color throughout that piece. Okay, so there we have that. All right. Pretty active with the holographic right in there. I'm looking to see if it looks fairly dimensional still, and I think it does look pretty dimensional in whatever deep space. Let's try out some additional tones in here. I'm grabbing some colored pencils here. I thought I would do a kind of a yellow tinged color scheme in my trees here, like it's like fall foliage maybe. All right, so that's just a real light application of this. I don't want to press too hard with the colored pencil because what we're doing is we're coloring a layer of the Brilliance ink that's underneath this impression, okay? And you can color that Brilliance ink that's been laid down there or laid underneath there, but you can't build it up too much because it starts to get the tooth, the texturing that's created with this Brilliance ink. It's there, but as soon as you start to flatten it out, it gets really smooth, and it's hard to lay down, colored pencil on something that's really smooth. Had a mid-afternoon nap. That's what I was thinking about doing. I was like totally like yawning and falling asleep. I think that the week's catching up to me this past week. But I thought, I know it'll wake me up. Stamping. Hello, Catherine. How are you? Yeah. I had that big blob right there and right there, so covering it up, but then it looked blobby with the white paint, so you just cover it up with additional imagery. And the Seaside Cove, that texturing in here, is something that I've wanted to, play around with the new cabins anyways. It's like, I don't know, whatever wave, small wave or just water pattern texture to go along with these stamps in here. I want to do this one. Okay, so this is this composition that I want to do roughly about. I mean, it could be any one of the cabins, probably the nighttime ones, but I want to use this cabin right here, or a waterside cabin, and then I want to use this seaside cove right in here with these waves. I'm not going to have this figure in here though, and I'll use a stronger portion of the waves down here, but I have those Saya glow-in-the-dark powders like that. I want to apply some powders down here. Probably not with the holographics, but I guess it could be, but I want to do some glow-in-the-dark bioluminescent type of thing under the moonlight. And I don't know, but this scene right here, it's showing me what the, these waves could look like with our, new cabins right here. All right, so I'm trying to add some nice variation of, kind of golden hues in our foliage right here. I'm probably starting to achieve a little bit of super saturation here. I can't go too much thicker with my applications of this color or these colors because it's, like I said, I'm starting to you know, I'm using up all the tooth of the the brilliance ink that's been laid down underneath here. So I'd say about 2 or 3 kind of light layers of colored pencil work pretty good on over brilliance ink that is over the printable vinyl. But I really love that kind of soft addition of color like that too. It really contrasts against that really loud background. I think it looks fairly dimensional too because the colors of colored pencil or the texturing of it, I find that it's really quite soft looking as far as a medium that we can use on our scenes. So I like that real kind of soft application of color contrasting against, in other ways, a metallic, super dimensional, very loud background paper in here. Okay, so going on with some of this brown right in here. So I'm leaving a little bit of the top a little bit lighter and kind of adding a little bit more brown down here. Top of the house is a little bit lighter to represent lighting from the moon hitting that top area, that top whatever slope. Like that. Let's bring a little of these browns right into the surrounding area too. Just something kind of earthy looking and warm. A little bit of a warm and slightly darker contrast. Right in there, like about like that. I just laid down a little bit because I want to have opportunity, but to add in some other tones. And if I, like I said, if I put a big slathering of that brown down there, it's going to seal off everything. So go really lightly. Again, you don't have a ton of whatever surface texture to work with, for your colored pencils. Okay, so I always like to use black too. So let's go and use some of that. Then if I think that, I think we can add on, I think the paper is going to take a little bit more, then I'll go in and maybe pick out another color. And adding a little bit of a shadow to the shoreline right here. And I'm adding a little bit more texturing right in here. There was a bit of a, too big of a blobby application of my white pigment ink when I was trying to cover up that, that blob in there. The blob is still there a little bit, but it's kind of getting reasonably obscured. Here, I'm also running, okay, right around here, I can tell I'm kind of running out of room of where I've applied some of that white pigment ink down there. So I can't go down here too far. And also I'm kind of questioning, do I want to go down into this white pigment ink or should we retain some of that white pigment ink? I don't know. There isn't a definitive answer for that. You can leave it or you can, go over it. Let's try a little bit of this light blue for a little bit of variation on our wave area. Okay, I think that looks okay. And let's take some greens in here. I know this is moonlight, but I want some slightly green, grassy terrain right in here. Let's use some in our trees as well. it looks like it can take a little bit of it. How about some orange right here? Let's try some of that too. A lot of these colors, with this holographic cardstock, you can really apply a lot of different types of colors in your scenes and achieve a decent amount of kind of visual harmony with the with whatever colors you're using. You can get kind of wild with it because all the colors in holographic types of cardstocks, they're all in there. That's like the full spectrum, just depending on kind of what angle you use it in. So if you have colors in here and colors over here, like any color that you can possibly choose. I mean, it might get a little bit gaudy, but you know what I mean. But it will kind of, I don't know, kind of a blend in, harmonize with the surrounding area reasonably well. I didn't used to use this paper because I thought it was too, I don't know, too gaudy looking, you know what I mean? So I like to cover up a lot of it and just have it as kind of, I don't know if it's an accent, it's still a major kind of player within the surface right here, if not the dominant one. But we've subdued it with a lot of other, types of imagery around there, and then the blocking out of certain areas with the white pigment ink that's been laid underneath there. In other words, I don't have all these stars just showing right through all of our trees down here because we blocked it out with a base layer of pigment ink before we stamped over it with the imagery. This area right down here was kind of this triangular application of white pigment ink right down here. Anyway. All right, let's see. I wasn't going too dark on here, but it's like, I think it can use a little bit more tone in here and go darker. After all, it's supposed to be nighttime, so I think it can take, a decent amount of, I don't know, whatever black shading, dark shading, doesn't have to be black. All right, so I have that. It's looking a little bit more dimensional to me, I guess. All right, let's go back in. So I've laid down various colors in here, but let's reiterate that same type of, color scheme with the addition of some colors from our pens right here. Hello, Christine. Yeah, it's kind of like, so I had those two blotches down there, right? Now, all these little components we can add in there anyway, but, if you had this in here, we're adding an image over the top of it. We're putting some additional pigment ink that was over the top of those little blotches. I can still see those blotches if I look really closely, but they were very prominent without anything there, okay? Now, if you lay something white over the top of it, now you've pushed them back one step. Now I've laid the image over the top of it in the Seaside Cove. So now it's 2 layers back. Additional colored pencil, paint pens, things like that. What we just keep doing is we keep pushing it back far further in terms of kind of the visual attention that it demands, even if it's still there. Okay, you don't have to just bury something completely. Yeah, I mean, some people are just, they get bothered by something. It's like, oh my God, I can still see it. And it's like they're focusing on that. But if you're kind of focusing on the overall, if someone got this card, they would never see that little green dot right there. You know what I mean? It's just not some kind of prominent visual focal point. Um, that's going to be very obtrusive. I don't think. Now, someone's very self-conscious about it, and they say, and they give a card to someone, and they say something like, here's a card. Sorry about that dot. You know what I mean? I accidentally got some ink, that dropped on there, and it was, it it ruined the card, but I didn't have time to do another one. Then someone might pay more attention to that, the type of thing, or notice it, maybe even notice it. Okay, so adding in some additional kind of textures in here. This looks really good with the yellow paint pen on here. I'm finding it looks pretty good in terms of it's a little bit of a brighter yellow, and also a little bit more textural. Hopefully you can see that laid on there like that in the on screen. Oftentimes what I do is, if there's these kind of fall foliage types of leaves in here, what you do is you apply them on top of the leaves like that. But then, if there's rocks or something underneath here, you lay down some on the area underneath those trees. Like it's leaves falling on the ground, colored leaves on the ground there. So, all right, so we have that. You can even have some kind of floating over here on the surface. Maybe I'll add in a couple leaves in here. I think I'll do that. I'll add in a couple of the modeler's leaves in here, like, it's floating across this little bay here, or cove, or something like that. Let's see here. Let's add some additional highlighting in here. About like that. And all right, now something that I'm going to enjoy doing here, if I can do it fairly carefully, is add in some additional pigment ink. I've been doing that on all of my scenes, and I really like the look. Like this little bit of fog kind of creeping around the whatever the point right there, the edge of that cove, and creeping around in here. It's easier to do on different types of cardstocks, okay, like that. Because if I laid that down, and if I put too much, I can always just wipe it right off, okay? But on this printable vinyl sticker paper, what you lay down with this pigment ink, it is pretty well set, okay? So I've mentioned this before all the time. Whenever I do this, I say, don't go in there with a big, thick slathering usually. But that's just in terms of, kind of the application process, just so you don't have to remove so much. But on this one, it's like, when you lay it down there, and it's set. Okay. So it's this one would be a perfect one for people to practice on, because you kind of really develop, really delicate touch. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be so delicate. What you do is you just want to have a nice dry brush application of this. So don't have a big blob of paint on your cotton ball, which you shouldn't do anyway. But you can blot it off a little bit like that. I think I've removed really too much off of this, but it'll give me a feel of how much is on the, how much is on the cotton ball here. Okay, so I'm tapping right here, and I'm getting a little bit of a application. I've tapped down there probably like 15 times, semi-lightly. Don't get impatient and just go blob on there, no, but if you can kind of get the look that you're going after in whatever, 30 taps or something like that, that's about right. You want to, and 30 taps is, I don't know, it's like, you know, 10 seconds or so, I don't know, 15, 10 seconds. So it's not like you're doing it forever. But on this vinyl sticker paper, you will apply kind of the right amount. So we have this little bit of fog in here like that. Okay, so see, I've put it right in here. I've kind of left that a little bit more crisp, without any that pigment ink over it, and a little bit right there. Let's go into these waves. These waves are looking kind of, I don't know, they're just way too, oh, I don't know, dark and kind of ominous, in some ways. But let's soften up some of these areas. But what you do is you soften up some, but you leave it crisp in others. So you just want a little bit of like textural contrast. Let me do this too. Let me practice a little bit more here. Let me come up right around here, and I'll add some of this in here like this. See that little light touch right in there? Like that. And this little kind of, this soft kind of lighting and texturing, it's a really nice textural contrast. Again, with this very harsh, loud paper cardstock like that. See that right in here? It just kind of, it starts balancing things out a little bit. I don't know if you can ever really balance out, that type of paper completely. But again, you're bringing in these softer forms in there to move a little bit more towards kind of whatever you'd call it, textural equality. Someone write that down. Okay, so let's see. Let's put some of this right over the waves here. I'm putting it over some of my cresting waves, just because they're a little bit more illuminated, and it might make some more sense to have a little bit more of this foggy kind of touch right there. You're not going to have this white kind of, diffused illumination if there's no light in an area, so, some areas just completely in darkness. You're not going to have this unless there's like a glow in the dark, bioluminescent fog or something like that, mist, but probably not. So, all right, so going over this area here a little bit. Let's bring some of it right in here. Let's have her kind of sitting on a little bit of like, I don't know, whatever shoreline mist too. Again, it's a little bit harsh right in here for me. Maybe it's my white pen work or something like that. So, I'm being kind of careful. It's easy to kind of not see anything. Like, am I applying anything at all? And then you press down like that and it gets a big blob. In this case, like I said, and if I did get that blob, what I do is I would just go back in with my colored pencils a little bit and manipulate it. I would reestablish some shadow areas. But, if you don't have to do something, if you can avoid it just to begin with, it's always kind of preferable, to prevent extra work. I do put in a lot of extra work, though, kind of repairing some stuff. I take it a little bit too far a lot of times. All right, so anyways, you see a little bit of a kind of this misty glow right here. It contrasts it, against that side a little bit, so it's a little bit different. But see that what you do is you put those little crisp little highlights right up there with the acrylic paint pens, and you can come back into it and add kind of a softer kind of lighting into it. This is coloring up here, but it's kind of lighting because, those little yellow dots up there are, they're lighter than the background, so it represents light just you know, whatever reflected colored light in there. We have this coming around right in here, and let's see, I think that looks okay. I think it looks reasonably dimensional, and I don't know, I think it looks reasonably interesting. I love the combinations of things like colored pencils again with this holographic cardstock. I guess it's the kind of the combination of soft and sharp and, you know, kind of gaudy looking. But it sure is fun kind of playing around with those holographics like that. Okay, so like I said, I thought it might be kind of interesting to, you know, add a little bit more dimension into this. We'll see if this looks okay. I don't remember if I played around. I think I have a little bit, maybe played around with the dimensional modeler's leaves. I think I don't remember. And the holographic cardstocks. Okay, so this is these are modeler's leaves in here. They're like for model railroad builders or people that make little dioramas. And I'm going to put this isn't, the scale is going to be off right here, I know. You know, these leaves are going to be gigantic, you know, but oh, we're not exactly going for realism when we're starting off with a piece of like holographic cardstock anyway. So adding these little leaves right in here, like they've the leaves are coming ashore. Right around in here. I don't know, chances are if those types of trees are on the other side of that cove right there, they're going to be over here behind our figure too. So I'm just kind of laying these down. These are really fun to do. I'm going to put one on her, that dock that she's on too. You can create a pretty decent amount of dimension on scenes with these little types of touches like this. If there was a little lobster boat right in here, this could be, you know, Glen Cove in Maine. Right where I stayed at the Glen Cove Motel twice. Let me see. I guess that's enough of those little leaves down there. All right, so this is the little piece of paper that I'm going to be mounting this onto, like this. All right, so I'll spray mount it like that. And then we have our little, you know, piece like that. So my little repair demonstration right here. Just if you have something that you don't like in a scene, just cover it up with anything. You can cover it up with texture, additional images. I mean, the easiest thing, you know, the joke of scenic stamping was if you don't like something, you stamp a tree over it or a branch or something like that. So I could have stamped like some leaves, you know, coming in here like this, or another whole tree like this. That would be kind of interesting too, and just kind of frame off the scene with a couple other pine trees or something like this right on the side here. It would have framed her off pretty cool. But I did want to see what that seaside cove looked like in there, so we covered it up with some additional white, some additional texture, multiple media, and, you know, I don't know, it's kind of obscured there. That little coloring right there of that blob of ink that got on there, it's like the same color as that right over there. It depends on what angle you're looking at these things at, but, different colors come about. Look at this right here, where you can't even see that holographic coloring in there. You can almost do a scene that just looks like that color right up here. I think that would be really cool. But you have the addition of the stars like that, And plus, one of the things that's kind of fun is when people get these types of cards like this, they tend to get it and they do this thing with it, when they get it. And if your card goes up on a whatever, goes up on the mantle or something like that, or they put it somewhere on display, and if they could see it from whatever across the room, or whatever, it's on the refrigerator, the angle that they're looking at it at, or if they're looking at it as they're walking across the room, it does this. It changes. The angle changes in there, so it looks like a little scene that's in motion like that, which is kind of fun. So I don't know. You can play around with these types of things, and you can go. It's very metallic and like foily, glittery in the background, and sparkly, and you can kind of mute it out like this with some additional, the white pigments and colored pencils like that. But then you can go back into it again, and if you want to add in, now if she wasn't here, if it was just like a rocky shoreline or something like that, with some rocks, you can add in some fun things like, I would do like those little pebbly textures down here in the foreground, again, if she wasn't there. And then things like the crushed glass or something like that down here in the foreground. You can have some actual three-dimensional media, and you would just glue it down just like I did with the leaves down here. So it would kind of reiterate what's going on in that sparkly foundation of a cardstock. And you can add in like three-dimensional types of things that are kind of sparkling, and like I said, they're actually dimensional, so you can create a lot of depth within a piece. You don't have to add in a bunch of those things like this, but I don't know, just 4 or 5, on a small card like this or something like that. Just something kind of sticking out from the surface like that. And I think that's really fun to do. This is crushed glass right here. It's not like shardy where you're gonna, cut yourself or anything like that. It's tumbled. So if you're using something like these, I find that what you do is you kind of pour some of it out and just kind of look for some of the flatter pieces. Because I think a lot of the things that people are using this type of thing for are those what's that material where people are pouring out some kind of like big, thick, liquidy thing, and there's things on the inside of it that you add in, glitters and all kinds of things like that. Resin pours. Yeah, but you can use them on your surfaces like that. All right. So anyway, let's see here. Let me start up here. Oh. You're at 10 p.m. Eastern there, Orlando, Florida. Time to walk the dogs, huh? This late at night? You take them out for like one last time during the night or something like that? Laura, there was like a blob of. You might be able to rewind right in this play right here, but if you go to the beginning, there's this blob of. It looks like Caribbean blue, but I don't think I used Caribbean blue. But there was some kind of blue ink, re-inker ink that was right here and right here. You can see it right there on the surface, and it really was very, very obvious on this holographic sticker paper. If you get any kind of like water or anything on it, like even if you drop like a thing of water right here, it gets this kind of like that weird kind of like chalky like white look to it. But that ink really stood out. It was like a very big, obtrusive couple of drops on there. Again, it was, it's when I was doing these other pieces, but I guess it was the Adirondacks Lights, because that was the one that I was using the re-inker for, and it was like blue on here. It just looks like so much of a darker blue, but I don't know. Yeah, it got on there, so it's like, oh, I gotta make sure that I put all these little stamp sketches out of the way. I thought I got something on this one too, but maybe not. But anyways, yeah, just showing people that you can, if you get stuff on stuff, just bury it with whatever you want. Hello, Megan Els. Yeah, so this holographic paper. Okay, so I think you all know that this is the printable vinyl holographic sticker paper. Okay, so it's not to be mistaken with something like a holographic foil. I don't even know if I have any here. Well, yeah, here's a piece of like holographic foil like this. Okay, but that's the holographic foil right there. And I do have, well, see, this is a holographic vinyl sticker paper right here, okay? This one's the foil, this one's the sticker paper. So you can peel this off the back and it's a sticker. Okay, there's holographic sticker paper too, but it's not printable. You can see the printable ones. I don't know if it's just a general thing, but I think they're a little bit duller. And I mean, the packet's going to say, printable holographic sticker paper too, and it tells you what types of inks. But they're meant to be run through your inkjet printer, okay? So this thing is not going to be the same in terms of how it accepts inks as something like this right here. Okay, now this one just happens to be the starry pattern one. So just if you're going to do this type of technique right here using the Brilliance ink and some colored pencils on there, or really just a lot of different media, you want to use the printable variety of these, and they come in all kinds of different patterns. So there's some really cool patterns out there, like this one right here is pretty interesting to me. That's a printable sticker paper again, holographic one, so it has that coating on here. You see how it's a little bit dull? And that's the emulsion coating on there. Don't accidentally drip water on there. Otherwise you're going to have to do a repair video. But yeah, just use that and it makes your life much easier. Okay, so the printables do accept a lot of different types of inks too, dye-based inks, Brilliance, water-based right here, okay, stays on solvent ink. If you do that stays on here though, when you stamp down here, you got to lift it up really fast, otherwise it really dries really fast. And then when you try to peel it off the stamp, it's, you almost feel like you're going to be tearing the paper. And sometimes the ink dries so fast, the stays on the printable sticker paper, that you peel the stamp off of the surface like that. That's again if you hold it down for too long. And sometimes the ink comes off on the stamp instead of transferring over there. It just, I don't know, dried in between, so you're like peeling off that emulsion coating on here, okay? And the oil-based VersaFine Clair. But the best one is the Brilliance ink, because you stamp it down there. You can hold it down long, you can stamp it quick. You lift it off like that. It's water-based, and it dries on this really fast. And then you can go in there and start coloring away. Something like the Clair is one that's okay, it dried on here. I'm looking at this right now. I never noticed this before, but this is like really, it's kind of real scratchy on here. Do you see all these scratches on here? So the oil-based, like I said, it's not, okay, so I can just scratch that right off of that. I didn't notice that before. I know it dried on here just fine, but see it's scratching. But see this Brilliance one, it's really stuck on there because this is designed for water-based ink. Okay, now I never used the Clair myself on here, even though I saw that. it dried, but okay, it doesn't adhere to it again. This emulsion coating is designed for, your water-based media like that. So just use your water-based media on there and all will be well. I would get a Brilliance white and black, pigment ink for use with foils too. It works on the foils too, not like this, but if you stamp them on foils, you can just spray seal them and it will adhere the inks, on things like colored foils and the like. So I like things like Brilliance gold or something like that on gold foil, but again, you spray seal it and it'll lock it down. The Brilliance inks will dry on something like this, but it won't adhere. So anyways, just mentioning that here. I got a lot of people trying things. Oh, I got some holographic, but then they'll use it, but they are using holographic cardstock and not holographic printable vinyl. And you can do those types of things too, but just not with certain types of techniques and methodologies. So keep that in mind, yeah. Of course, the people that are doing that are the ones that just see me post something like this and they say, oh, I got something that looks like that. I'm going to try it. So they stamp onto like holographic cardstock with VersaFine Clair. They say, oh my God, I complain about this too much, but, and I totally understand it because these things often look alike, like glossy cardstock and glossy photo paper, two really similar looking surfaces, but they just react way differently to certain types of media there. Resin, yes, manganelles, yeah. Those resin pour videos are certainly popular. Everyone loves to see a good pour. I've even seen like whatever this guitar is made out of making a guitar made out of Lego or a guitar made out of colored pencils or something like that. But they have to kind of pour the resin around it and then tool the whatever shapes out of basically resin and those other things. They're kind of hypnotic watching those things, I guess. We like to see the people like pouring stuff apparently. I just got 6 colors of StazOn in reinkers. Oh, and reinkers. That sounds cool, Candy. So yeah, you can play around with the StazOns on those foils though. Action Find. I have a lifetime supply of Stampin' Up! Ink pads and reinkers. So Meganels, yeah. If you're doing like a layered dye-based ink applications, if you have the reinkers for all of your pads, if you're doing something like these ones right here, just skip your pads and apply. I'm talking about when you're inking up and layering your inks. Just go with your reinker fluid, just directly on whatever sponging, or applicator you're using. I use paper towels these days, but just do that and then apply your inks and it will make things go really, really fast. Especially those base layer colors on there. So the spinning pores. Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of different those pores. But I like those resin pours where they're making like a table and they're filling in like a big like knots or something on the wood and then tooling that down and making it really smooth and glassy and see-through. Sometimes they put things into like a countertop or something like that. It's always kind of interesting. There's all kinds of interesting things on YouTube. Who knew that there would be channels just devoted to like wood churning or, things like that. Yeah. Everything. Feeding turtles or meerkats. Yeah, the paper towels work pretty good. I did love my Colorbox stylus tools. Those were the most ergonomic types of things in the world, but I always hated it. If you're doing these videos like this and if people are watching it wherever, especially kind of internationally, if it was really hard for them to find those types of things, I thought, oh, But I really loved using them. So when Clear Snap went out of business, I thought, let's just go back to the basics and just start using things like sponges. It was mostly, I didn't use paper towels too much, if at all. Like back in the 80s and early 90s, when I first started stamping. Well, back then it was the tonal applicator too, but I don't know, paper towels were around. But what I'm getting at was most people, if you were doing some kind of sponging method, it was usually the triangular wedge shape cosmetic sponges. I think I tossed my bag here because I think it was 20 years old and the foam was starting to break down on them. But those ones worked pretty good. I like the density of the foam like that. A lot of people didn't like the edges of the foam though, where it's like a square. But I found that those worked pretty good. But okay, but the paper towels I just find so much easier these days. It's almost like, to me, it's like finger painting, and I have a lot of control over that in terms of the larger areas to cover. Oh, that was an auction find. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, you definitely need the re-inkers for those stays-on pads there. All right, folks. Just a quick card here. Here, I'll show you the kind of the look of this again. I think okay, so on this one right here, the colored pencils are laid down in here, but I really think that, I don't know where to go. Like this little yellow acrylic paint pen worked really nicely in those trees. It gave it that kind of boost of kind of intensity in those trees. Just the colored pencil alone looked okay. But like I said, colored pencils are such a soft looking tone. So just kind of that little highlights on the edges of some of those tree limbs right in there. But so, I think that looks, this is what, I don't know, this is probably like one of the most dimensional things we can stamp on probably, is the holographic cardstocks like that, or holographic printable vinyls. So even I get mixed up sometimes. But yeah, they're a lot of fun to do. I'd really recommend it if you haven't done it before. The holographic printable vinyls are really inexpensive, and you can get like a pack of like 5 different surfaces, 5 different types. And it's really reasonable. Like a 25 sheet pack or something like that, or it could be a 10 sheet pack. But oftentimes it's cheaper than certain types of cardstocks, especially the foils. Certain ones, though. But give it a try, and I don't know. There's probably at least 100 lessons doing that on the channel. It's in the metallics playlist where I've done a lot of these holographics like that, and they can make it for some really quick cards too, especially in this type of whatever sequencing with the brilliance inks, and it just makes it really fun. A lot of you have colored pencils too, so. That's always a fun thing to work with. All right, folks. Thanks again for jumping in here and checking out the live. Hope you have a great rest of evening, and hope to see you on the next live stream.